got that green. You know, you want to try and create a camouflage bait, and that's exactly what you get with this mix, which is not too green, not too bright, but a nice subtle colour. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some ground bait. Sorry mate. I'm going to get a few pellets. And I've actually mixed the mix quite dry. And the reason for that, let's take that one out. Dry on the trousers. The reason for that is if you overwet your ground bait for the method feeder, especially with a mould, you'll find you can't compact it enough and it will stick in the mould. If you overwet your ground bait, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how dry this mix is. It's incredible, but it allows the bait to work properly. So I'm going to fill the mould up like that. Press it down really hard. Now look at that. Now before I put this in the water, I'm going to pass this around. Now you feel how compact that is. Really hard. And that is because it's a dry mix. If you try to do that with a wet mix, it will stick the mould and it will be a bit more sludgy. And that is what you get with that particular mix. Marine halibut, green swim stim, that compact mix, but you've also got all those attractants within that feeder. There's no other mix in my head that works better than that. You know, keep things simple. If you find a mix that works well, and you find a way of mixing that bait that works well, and I'll show you how to mix your ground bait as well, stick to it. Because you're trying to create uniformity with your fishing and your performances. And especially with a feeder, if you do your pellets a different time every time you go fishing, there's no continuity to your fishing, there's no continuity to your results, and you've got nothing to work from. Always stick to recipe amounts, and then if it's not right, you can adjust whatever you need to feel you need to adjust, whether it's add more water or pellets or etc. But you can see what's happened to that hook bait now. It's rolled away. So not forgetting that's a long cast feeder, where I might be leaving it in for half an hour. Look what's happened to that hook bait, which is exactly what I want. You can imagine a carp wanting to come up to that feed, and look how it stands out amongst that green. Right? Now also, it's starting to break down because this is what you do. You load your feeder up, you cast it out. So, empty the bait out. One thing I always have with me is a little toothbrush if I need it. On the bank when I'm catching a lot of fish. This approach, if I'm, let's say, jumping up to an island, I could be having 200 to 300 casts with a feeder. So I want everything to work efficiently. This is why, if you're in a match and you catch a lot of fish, you want to back in that water as quickly as possible. So, having that mix right is so important because it's just going to cost you so much time out of the water if you're constantly having to remold your mix because it's sticking in the mold. Press it in nice and hard, nice and compact, put it in. Now what you find with ground bait is the ground bait with the pellets is blocking all those air holes up. But if you mix your ground bait right, you still get the same effect. If you mix your ground bait up too wet, then there's no air in that mix and you'll get what we call a dead feeder mix. Sometimes a dead feeder mix is really good. But other times I want it to be quick. If I'm casting and I want it to get a bite really quick, I want that bait to release from the feeder quite quickly because they're coming in, and it's not a lot of bait. Because you can imagine, they're not feeding on all that, they're coming in, they're stirring it up, and that ground bait is creating an aura around your feeder. Your particles are staying on the bottom, like let's say your 2 mil pellets, but the ground bait's creating a cloud in that area, and that's helping bring fish in. But you can see the difference. So, if you think about what you want to achieve, you can achieve it by simply doing experiments at home in a tank of water, getting that mix right, getting your pellets right, and in turn when you go fishing you will catch so many more fish if you think about your fishing a little bit more. But the footprint, without a shadow of a doubt, is your bait preparation. So they're the pellets. Let me show you how I mix my ground bait up. Has anybody got any questions up to now? Right, I'll also show you my hook lengths as well. Hook length, when it comes to stuff like this, is really, really important. So let me just mix this up. Now ideally, when you're mixing ground bait up, you really want to mix it up. In fact, you really want to mix it up in a round container. Do not mix it up in a square one because it gets caught in the corners. You don't evenly distribute the moisture and the particles together. So I'm only going to mix a bit, which allows it to mix it better. But all I want to do is I want to show you how little water you add to the mix. And this is a lot of problems. What people have is they add too much water. Best way of looking at it is a little bit at a time until it's right. So more or less 50% of each. Mix it up. Like I said, always use marine halibut, especially for feeder work, because it's got that density. But as well as that, when the water temperature is even warmer, let's say for example the water temperature is like 10 degrees now, 9-10 degrees if we're lucky. As soon as that water temperature rises, ground bait works differently, and you've got the attractants within marine halibut that really do expand in your swim and help draw fish in. It makes a massive difference. But the reason why I use it, it's got density, it's got body behind it. So when I'm trying to create the principle of what I'm achieving with these feeders, marine halibut does exactly what I want it to do. So a little bit of water, a very small amount. What I'm going to do, I'm going to pass this around and show you what it's like. Now, what I'm going to remember is resting time. If I added just enough water to get the ground bait like what it is instantly like that would be too dry, because you've got to give that ground bait time to dry out and aerate. So this is the perfect texture when you mix it. Now, if you want to get your hands mucky, you're quite welcome. But you can see, if I find that like that, that's perfect. If I break it down, it breaks down to its original form. When I'm mixing ground bait up, that's exactly what I'm trying to achieve. Not too wet. If you want to fine tune a mix, always on your bank side have an atomizer. On my side tray, I've got an atomizer. You can buy them from your garden centres. You spray the ground bait to fine tune it. If you then think I need a bit more water and you tip some water in, it works differently. If you're atomizing ground bait, you're aerating moisture into it, you're not adding water, if that makes sense. If you're pouring water into a bucket, you're adding water. If you're spraying it, you're atomizing the moisture in the area. It's massive the difference it makes, and gradually you can get the mix right. Attention to detail, whether it's the ground bait that you're doing or the pellets that you're doing, step by step, and you'll end up with a really, really good quality pellet. Another thing that I want to talk about before I go on to hook lengths, I'm sure there's some questions, is this complexity. I can't tell you how much I love this stuff. It's absolutely brilliant. And Mark Baker put me onto it. And simply when you're looking for that higher attraction, I tell you how much difference it made for my fishing. Woolsborough Reservoir is a massive expanse of water. We're talking 380 metres across in width. And I always felt that I could get more fish into the peg. I was catching a lot of carp, but surely there's a way of getting more fish into a swim. And I spoke to Mark Baker and he said, look, you need more nutritional content within your pellets. Everyone's using pellets. You want something a bit different. You want that cooling power. And basically what complex tea is a hydration liquid. It's got that protein, those attractants that alter the pH level in the water around your feeder. And literally it was like night and day. As soon as I added some of this into my mix, literally if I'm doing a pint of pellets, I'll do 4 caps, and on the Dynamite webpage you'll see a video that I've done recently of exactly that, how to do the pellets and how to add it. You don't need a lot. I'm 100% sure in my head, and I think it all comes down to confidence as well. If you're confident with it, you're going to catch fish. And if you're confident, you then sit there with patience thinking, it's going to work, something's going to happen, because you've got belief in what you're doing is the right thing. Try it, trust me, that makes a massive difference. And a very small amount as well, don't have too much, but it smells like bovril. You smell that? Just pass that Groundbait around so you can all have a look.
Oh, there's no seen it.
Have they all seen it? Good, good. Anybody else want to look at it? Yeah. It smells like bovril, doesn't it? Yeah, it's nice. Really nice. But trust me, it makes a big difference. Oh, yeah. Right. While you're passing that around, let's talk on to hook lengths.
With that liquid, would you use that all year round or only certain times a year?
All year round.
All year round,
all
yeah.
Year round. And generally, good question, in the winter don't put as much in.
Okay.
Not as much potency.
Yeah.
So let's say, I'm on about, let's say I had 4 caps to a pint.
Yeah.
If the summertime I had 5 caps.
Got
just
you.
a little bit more.
Okay. Could you add it to the Groundbait as well?
Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
You can add it to anything. You can even soak your hook baits in it.
Yeah.
You know, if you believe that that's going to make a difference in your head, right. That's a very good question, and it comes down to what feeder suits the terrain that you're faced with. So if I'm on a deep venue where I'm casting a feeder in 4, 5, 6 foot of water, a hybrid feeder is better, therefore generally use pellets, because one thing I haven't showed you is exactly what I said at the beginning. If you add Groundbait and pellets to a hybrid feeder mix, you create what we call a dead mix. So I'll do it with this feeder here. I'm going to compact this in. Now you can imagine if you're just using pellets in a hybrid feeder, exactly like what's happened there, you're creating all those pellets, the air caught between them pellets pushing that bait out. As soon as you add Groundbait, you create a dead mix, which sometimes works, but the Groundbait or the pellet choice is dictated by what feeder you're on. So if you're fishing in depths 4 foot above, a hybrid feeder blended with pellets. If you're looking at shallow waters, then a flatbed feeder works really well. But if it's in the winter, just stick to a hybrid feeder where you're using pellets. And then as soon as the summertime comes, that's where Groundbait plays a big part in your choice.